Asem ena chese ato eye nanado ene Ghana for na ebusiafo se ensem ne ete say de e fire Ghana ye businesses ne ade chese enioma astarte e koso eye ebusia beso se ube stay team to ayehu TV ube like ube comment na wa share me videos ne ede ama na chese yabo apinche ensem no na yakotie ensem se de ne fariban esitie.
Look now at our stories. Some commercial banks are projecting that they expect CD stability to be sustained in the coming weeks. There is more in the following Business Desk report. The commercial banks are basing their projection on the current reserve position of the Bank of Ghana as well as its strong gold purchase program. This has seen the central bank build up some significant dollar reserve, crossing the 3 months of import cover and being able to balance that with significant purchase of tons of gold. The development some of the commercial banks in their advice to their clients say has improved the market confidence when it comes to the city's outlook. It has also shown that the central bank is in strong position to defend the local currency in the coming weeks. On whether the city can withstand the perennial first quarter pressure every year, some of the banks argued that will be dependent on the incoming administration sticking to some of the programs that have helped in stabilizing the city over the past 2 months. And pretty soon in our Zoom for a conversation on the back of this is the manager of macroeconomic research at Ghana Commercial Bank GCB PLC, Ghs Jubilate. Thanks so much, sir, for joining us here on Business Life, and a happy new year to you. Now, before we get into the CD analysis, how will you describe 2024, you would say?
Happy New Year to you, Teàrs, and your listeners. 2024 has been an interesting year, and I received, I believe, what I consider the best New Year message so far. That yes, 2024 has been difficult. You cannot recover or, in fact, restore everything that probably you've lost, but the lessons drawn, the experiences drawn, we can build on that into the new year and then make sure we use that to advantage. And I think that is what it's been, a year of challenges, a year of learning, and a year where if we pick the lessons and pick them right, we could become better for it as more resilient people going forward. So yeah, nothing to complain about, everything to be thankful for in a year.
Nothing to complain about. But let's now talk about the city. Do you also share the optimism expressed by these commercial banks that the stability we are witnessing now should continue at least for the month of January? Do you believe so?
Well, yes. I mean, so now in hindsight, you may interpret the Bank of Ghana's actions around November, December as a timely intervention to ease liquidity conditions in the market, and knowing that November typically tends to be the seasonality period where you tend to see a lot of pressure from the importers and traders trying to bring enough goods for Christmas. And if you wanted to have maximum impact, the $200+ million they were injecting on a weekly basis around those periods were meant to more or less improve liquidity conditions in the market and then help avert further slide, given we had slated from about 11 CD 90 per start of the year to all the way to about 17 CD just before we enter into the Yuletide season really. And we've seen the impact so far that has led to some marginal correction on the market. We're closing sub 15 for some of the markets, and depending on where you're looking at, just around 15.5, 15.7 for whichever market you may be looking at really. And I think at this moment the pressure is more or less contained. We are not seeing as much intervention in the market, but that's because they have dealt with the hotspot, the pressure, I mean, in November and then into early December. And so you would expect going forward that the usual market dynamics, market forces of demand and supply is what will play. You would also expect that sentiment are a bit more contained. We are out of if you like, the worst period we've seen in currency management, where now reserves has been built up and we have now reserve level that is quite robust, even if we are not still where we want to be. And you do not see immediate shocks coming from maybe the external side of things. Yes, there will be coupon payment from January, but those are broadly contained in my view because they've been provisioned for and all that. So on the back of these, I believe that there is ample goodwill support the city to some relative stability, at least in the first month and going into the first quarter of the year. The period where we might begin to see the realities begin to re-emerge is when government is fully formed and the business of government is fully in full swing, and then of course banks and other multinationals have declared dividends and are at the point of repatriating their dividends and all that. That is the point where we might see whether the resilience is strong enough or otherwise. But in the meantime, I believe the goodwill, the sentiment on the market, and then the liquidity injection around the seasonal period, which help moderated the liquidity tightness on the market, should carry us on between now and through to maybe the coming weeks and months ahead of us.
I guess then the argument that the real test of the city will be when we're getting a bit closer to March or February this year, right?
Agree, and that is where probably things begin to normalize and you are beginning to ask the hard questions. And that is where we would see whether there is, and it depends on how the new government handles things between now and then. What has helped reserve accumulation has been in large part gold for reserve policy. Yes, the current government, then opposition, have had questions about it, albeit about the transparency of the process. I mean, if they want to continue with the program with better transparency, it helps the market. But if you do jettison a gold for reserve program, then the question becomes, how do you accumulate reserves at such a fast pace? I mean, all of those decisions will shape sentiment as to where the market will see things going forward. And so, yes, the quarter one by March is a test case as to whether we may continue on the path of stability. And of course, by that period also, you would have seen the budget of the new government, whether we are keeping on track fiscal consolidation or we are just sitting it, whether the renegotiated IMF program, if we would achieve even something by that time, will be something that resonates with the market, and all of those picture becomes much clearer, and that will inform sentiment around the city.
Then talking about what the new administration can do, what more can they do to ensure that we improve the fortunes of the city?
Well, in my candid view, we don't have to do much now. Yes, I know they won an overwhelming mandate, and there is that. And given the nature of the campaigns and how it panned out, there may be that temptation to begin to roll out certain policies almost immediately, and you see the 100-day social contract and some of the things they may be heavy on the budget and all that. There may be the temptation to roll these things out immediately. There may be temptations to roll out the tax cuts and of course all the other social interventions that were promised and all that. But if we go that path, I think it will send wrong signal to the market. If we go that path, it would have dire fiscal consequences. I don't believe that there is any magic one immediately that can improve revenue accumulation or improve compliance to the revenue rules, laws we have. I think it will be a gradual process, and so we do not have to distort the ship so much.